Blue Cliff Record, Case 27. Ummon's golden wind revealed. Engo's introduction. One question and 10 are answered. One corner and the other 3 are understood. Releasing a hawk upon seeing a rabbit, using the wind to fan the flame, not sparing the eyebrows. What about when you enter the tiger's cave? See the following. Main subject. A monk asked Ummon, "How is it when the tree withers and the leaves fall?" Ummon said, "Tairo kimpu," body revealed in the golden wind. Secho's verse. The question comes from the source. The answer comes from the same place. 3 phrases must be comprehended. The arrow penetrates the universe. The wind howls across the plains. Misty rains come down from the boundless sky. Don't you see the master of Shaolin Temple sitting so long, not yet returning home? Please join me in the verse of purification. All the harmful karma ever committed by me since of old, caused by my beginningless greed, anger, and folly, born of my body, mouth, and thought, I now confess and purify it all. So as you know, this is my last Teisho as abbot of the Zen Studies Society. On this dramatic day of golden wind and on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So we might say it's a time when we Jews, but I really think that it's not right to say Sometimes the phrase is used, chosen people. Chosen for what? A lot of suffering. All of us are included in this, no matter where we grew up, what the prevailing cultural traditions were. Let us all do this together. Devote ourselves to honestly assessing our thoughts, words, and deeds during this past year, and sincerely asking for forgiveness for our errors of commission and omission. Moses Maimonides said, we should always regard ourselves as if our death were imminent, and should therefore repent immediately. Yesterday evening, thanks to the wonders of our schedule and Zoom, just before Zazen, I was able to hear the haunting tune of Kol Nidre, first on the cello and then in the prayer that opens Yom Kippur. The congregation to which I belong in Syracuse kindly made this possible for those of us who couldn't be there. And that tune is so beautiful, so poignant. And I have a feeling that if I hum it, some of you may hum it with me, yes? Really captures the feeling, doesn't it? No? Yes? You are all here with me? Even if you weren't humming? So from that point, Kol Nidre, on until after sundown today, is the time when we really devote ourselves to acknowledging our misdeeds, our self-absorption, our unskillfulness. And again, recite the 3 pathways, this threefold pathway of teshuvah, returning to the original source of our true nature. Returning. Tefillah, prayer and meditation. And tzedakah, giving unreservedly. And we hear the beautiful prayer, Hineni, a declaration that means, here I am. Here I stand. And even though we feel unworthy, we take up the call. We respond. We are ready. I've been looking back over these past 13 years, beginning with the turmoil of 2010, when I was asked to take on the leadership of the Zen Studies Society. What could I say? Okay. I'm totally unworthy. I'm totally not ready. But okay. And on 1/1/11, at 11 o'clock, I was installed as abbot. And continued trying to figure out what I was doing, because the first thing I was told I had to do was tell my teacher not to come back. So how does one learn how to become abbot? Even the simple things, little rituals. What do you do up there? And continuing through the truly heart-rending early years. Slammed by demands from opposing forces. You remember well, right, Geno? Hokuto. It seemed as though my discernment and compassion were never sufficient. Mistake after mistake. Always someone pointing that out to me. I blundered on, often feeling as though I were a horse with blinders on, trying to navigate Times Square at rush hour. And of course, I've resonated with Samuel Beckett's words in Worst Word Ho. Ever tried, ever failed. No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better. It was truly a humbling time. And I often felt I wanted to give up, as Ryoju said in his beautiful talk yesterday. I wanted to give up and just walk away. But as Beckett wrote in Waiting for Godot, I must go on. I can't go on. I'll go on. Just taking the next step. As the koan says, walk straight on the zigzag path. Hineni. Leonard Cohen sang it. Hineni. Hineni. I'm ready, my Lord. You want it darker. We kill the flame. So as this day of atonement nears its end, I want to recite our meditation on forgiveness, which we do at the close of every anniversary session. For all the harm I have caused others, either intentionally or unintentionally, I ask forgiveness. For all the harm that I have caused myself, either intentionally or unintentionally, I forgive myself. For all the harm that others have caused me, either intentionally or unintentionally, I forgive them. So today we meet the famous master Ummon, a towering pillar of Tang Dynasty China. Ummon Bunnen Zenji, who lived from 862 to 949. There are good stories about him. There's a whole book by Urs App with his sayings and history of his life. So I won't go into any of that, just to say he was a successor of Seppo Gison, and that his direct and sharp and profound sayings appear as 5 cases in the Ummon, the gateless barrier, and 14 in the Hekigan Roku, the Blue Cliff Record, including this one. His school, the Ummon school, one of the 5 schools of Zen, lasted only 200 years, but the impact is felt vividly in our time. And although I've been doing the Blue Cliff Record for my Teishos at Hoenji, I haven't spoken on this collection here since probably, well, one of the few times anyway, was at my installation. Umon again. Each of you has your own light. The collection is composed of 100 koans selected by Teisho Juken, who lived from 980 to 1052, and the verses that he wrote for each. And then introductions or pointers, comments, and critical notes by Engo Kokugon, who lived 1060 to 1135. When Teisho's verses, called Verses of Appraisal of the Ancients, was published, it was very popular. And Engo, who lived, of course, about 100 years later, deeply appreciated them and wanted to bring out a collection of collaboration with Teisho, and called it the Blue Cliff Record, which had a lot to do with where he practiced, Blue Cliff. But then what happened? His wonderful successor, Daiei Soko, burned it, printing blocks and all. He was concerned that practitioners' enthusiasm for the beauty of this collection, the beauty of expression of these verses, would keep them from directly experiencing their own awakening, being attached to the words of others could be an impediment to trusting in one's own Buddha nature. So what we have in the Blue Cliff Record, this publication, is based on handwritten copies and the remains of wood blocks that were fished out of the fire. So in Engo's introduction, he says, 1 question and 10 are answered. A good question opens everything up, and one fitting response, any number of questions are answered. The questioner meets the responder. The guest meets the host. And then he says, one corner and the other three are understood. So if you see just one corner of perhaps a square of cloth, you know the whole through your sharp discernment. Engo comments, you must understand how Ummon raises one and illuminates three, raises three and illuminates one. In a single phrase of Ummon's 3 lives. Well, as I said, that's the nice side of this. But Ummon's way is anything but palatable. He is not interested in making nice. Some of you know a few of those koans, like, what is Buddha? Kanshiketsu. Shit wiping stick. To really enter into this koan, you know he's not making wise. He is deeply, deeply offering this. What is Buddha? Kanshiketsu. Or what is Ummon's tune? He answered, the 25th of December. Now, he wasn't talking about Christmas. But last month, right? 12th month, almost at the end. This is withering tree. So the monk asks, what is it when the tree withers and leaves fall? What is this question referring to? Landscape? Huh? Perhaps that is implied. He is really presenting his own state of mind. Having cast off the colorful garments of what? Fantasy, projection, desire, attachment. Having cut off the blind passions, having gone beyond separate selfhood, beyond concepts about what practice is for. All of it stripped away through his intensive practice. There is nothing left to protect. The self has been blown away. Just emptiness. Oh. As the Diamond Sutra puts it, he's free from the idea of an ego entity, free from the idea of a personality, free from the idea of a being, and free from the idea of a separated individuality. Of course, he does not say any of this. He simply says, the withered tree. How is it? Or the implication, now what? When you experience this, and perhaps some of you have, and perhaps some of you think, no way, I don't want to go like that. Withered tree, now what? And so Ummon shoots that arrow far into the void. Teisho Kimpu. Tai is body. Ro is revealed, or also same character, do. As in my Dharma name, Roko. Dew, shining. So transitory. And yet the entire universe is reflected in that one dewdrop. And always this roar revealing tight. But whose body? Some of you may remember my quoting Shinge Roshi. Your body is not your body. It is part of the whole body of all sentient beings. Your mind is not your mind. It is but a constituent of all mind. So this whole body of all sentient beings is what is revealed in the golden wind. Ummon calls this monk forth, Teisho Kimpu. Manifest this completely. Function. How will you function in the world? How will you live your vow? if you are stuck in emptiness, if you think extinction is what it's all about, where it ends, an achievement, you are cheating yourself and all beings. You probably know the story of course, old woman. We never hear about women, we only hear about old women, for obvious reasons. The old woman who sheltered a monk for some 20 years. And she fed him and washed his robes and mended them. And he just sat there in his hut, hermit monk. She felt something was off. So she sent her beautiful young niece with a mission. She said, "Go to his hut, bring his dinner to him, and then embrace him, and tell me what happens." So the niece goes, she brings his food, and then she throws her arms around him. And he says, "Oh, this withered tree on the bare rock." So she goes back and tells her aunt, "Well, he said it's a withered tree on bare rock." She goes and throws him out. "Get out of here," and burns down his hut. It's important not to get stuck in a dualistic framing of this monk who comes to Ummon and this monk who spurns the advances of the young woman. This condition that he brings to Umon is, in fact, something we all must experience. But then as he asks, how is it now? Now what? We can't just say, okay, nothing matters. Everything matters. In case 46 of the gateless barrier, proceed on from the top of the 100-foot pole. Chosha Keishin says, show your whole body, manifest your whole being in the 10 directions. Engage fully in this interconnected world. So from his withered, wintry state of mind, The monk hears Ummon's body revealing golden wind and transformation. Coming from emptiness, he can strike the emptiness, manifest abundance, reveal the pure gold of Dharmakaya, the Dharma body, and give it all away. We might say, now he's ready. We may feel far from ready on this second day of Golden Wind session, but sitting after sitting, we are looking at the ways in which we have limited ourselves. We have to do this. We have to see. We have to acknowledge our karmic imprints. We have to bring a tender acceptance to our fears, our aversions, our cravings, self-protective habits, before we can work through them. And even when we do experience the emptiness of all 5 skandhas, habits have a tendency to flare up again. Have you noticed? Oh, that sitting was so great. Oh, this sitting is so horrible. But when you've done enough sessions, you know that the most wonderful thing is to have a horrible sitting. Because next sitting, oh, sometime down the road anyway, maybe not the very next sitting, but this is the way things go, you know. Have you ever seen the movement of the ocean? But when they do flare up, our tendency is to try to shut down again instead of welcoming the flare, right? We don't want to deal with them. But really, it's only by looking at what we may have been ignoring for many years, or trying to, that we can find true freedom. And once we've had even a little taste of this, then we know we can return to this very place, the lotus land of purity. This very body, the body of the Buddha. It never went away. It's been here from the beginning. And once again, manifest the golden wind. So we vow to let our hearts be blown open so that, like Kanzeon, we can hear all cries. And there are so many coming from every direction. And we can awaken to the fullness of this Tairo Kimpu. And respond freely, creatively, effectively, compassionately, wherever we may be. Well, I'll read Secho's verse and speak a little bit about particularly the last two lines. The question comes from the source. The answer comes from the same place. What is that source? We can say that. Original source. What is the source of Mu? Then, three phrases must be comprehended. These three phrases of Ummon's. The arrow penetrates the universe. Ummon's great function. The wind howls across the plains into the autumn zendo. Misty rains come down from the boundless sky, saturating our hearts. Don't you see the master of Shaolin Temple sitting so long, not yet returning home? Who is the master of Shaolin Temple? Yeah, and where is he? Here. He is here, indeed. Motsuan Osho did that depiction behind Gyun. What's he saying, Gyun? Remember Eka stood in the snow and he kept saying what? Bodhidharma kept saying to Eka, huh? Go away. Go away. He said it in a few more words, but basically like that. Get out of here. And behind Shinge Roshi is one of our most wonderful scrolls, a dynamic scroll by Yamada Ummon Roshi, What does it say?
What the meaning of Dharma coming from the West?
Why did Bodhidharma come from the West? So many koans with that question. So, of course, we will be celebrating Bodhidharma Day October 5th, wherever we may happen to be at that time. Okay? You may be at a different spot. You may be New York City. You may be here. You may be Ithaca. So after this, he says, sitting so long, not yet returning home, after 9 years sitting, you remember his interview with Emperor Wu didn't go so well. After 9 years of sitting, Bodhidharma told his disciples, the time for me to return to India is at hand. Each of you now express your understanding. And this is what Ryoju did yesterday, knowing the time for me to retire is at hand. This expression. Bodhidharma's disciple named Daofu said, as I see it, it is not bound by words and phrases, nor is it separate from words and phrases. This is the function of the way, Tao. And of course, what is he referring to? The saying attributed to Bodhidharma, a transmission outside the scriptures, outside words and phrases, not relying on letters, pointing directly to the human mind. The attainment of Buddhahood, seeing into one's nature. Well, Bodhidharma told Daofu, you have attained my skin. Then another disciple spoke, a nun named Zonchi. She said, according to my understanding, it is like a glorious glimpse of the realm of Akshabhaya Buddha. Seen once, it need not be seen again. She had had a glorious glimpse into this realm. Once you see it, that's it. What did Bodhidharma say to her? You have attained my flesh. The third disciple, Dao Yu, gave this answer. The 4 elements are all empty, and the 5 skandhas are without actual existence. As I see it, there is not a single dharma to be grasped. Bodhidharma said, you have attained my bones. Then Huike, Eka Dai Sozenji, bowed and stood up straight. He stood there, firmly rooted tree. Hineni, here I stand, manifesting this. And Bodhidharma said, you have attained my marrow. And indeed, when we recite Teidai Dempo after Bodai Dharma comes, Ekadai Sozenji Daiosho, right? And yesterday I wanted to say to Ryoju, you have attained my heart. I want to end with something that requires you to sit facing each other in a comfortable way, if you can imagine such a thing. If you've been sitting cross-legged, you may want to sit seiza. If you've been sitting seiza, you may want to grab a chair or whatever. Anyway, face each other. If you're sitting on a chair, you may want to get down. This goes back to sessions that Shinge Roshi led in the 1970s. At the end of a Teisho, he would recite a line, and we would all then respond with a seated bow, a seated prostration. These words: Namu Sanze Sanzen Shobutsu, which means uniting with all the Buddhas in the three worlds, the 3,000 worlds. So let's do this. I will recite a line, and then all together we will do Namu Sanze Sanzen Shobutsu. All is revealed as it is now. Namu Sanze Sanzen Shobutsu. All is manifesting as it is now. Namu Sanze Sanzen Shobutsu. All is realized as it is now. Namu Sanze Sanzen Shobutsu.